I'm looking at you, Jack. You've written The Call of the Wild and White Fang and hundreds of stories of sailing in Alaska. You've made $1 million from your pen, and some of it's art. Critics have called you the writer who brought in the 20th century. But who are you, Jack? Behind the facade of the adventurer, looking down from the pinnacle of your success, looking back from the old age of 40. I walk with my daughter down Market Street. I hold her little hand in mine, taking her to the music hall. I meet many friends, bootblacks and businessmen alike. I try to tell her that this was where I started. Illegitimate and unwanted, born in a tenement. How I was a laborer child on $1 a day. Now my yacht, the Roamer, lies across the bay, and I make $1 a line.
I worked 10, 12, 14 hours a day in a cannery. I figured if I worked hard and saved until I was 50, that I could enter into the delights of the upper class. Of course, I determined never to get married. And quite forgot the rock of disaster of the working class world, sickness. I guess the life that was in me demanded more than scrimping and scraping.
This was the beginning of my mythology of raw struggle. I was a child laborer in grim factories where boys became men too young. And this was in San Francisco, a town of very rich and very poor, crude and civilized, contrasts that would twist themselves into my mind and my writing. Then I find a picture of myself, afforded on a rare occasion when my stepfather was in work. Was I ever really the underdog? I wonder. Or was that my smartness creating the underdog?
I looked at the son of the cannery owner going to college, and I knew in part that it was my muscle that helped pay his way. I didn't resent it. It was all a game. They were strong, very well. I would be strong. I would carve my way to a niche amongst them. I'd pitch in and work harder than ever and become a pillar of society.
By the time I was 16, I owned a boat and was pirating in the oyster beds. By the time I was 17, I shipped before the mast. My first capitalist phase was over. A rival group of pirates had burned my boat. Now I wanted to get out of San Francisco and Oakland to go where the winds of adventure blew, beyond the Golden Gate. On the Sophia Sutherland, I sailed for the islands in Japan. The word man was now written in large capital letters on my heart. To adventure like a man, fight like a man, drink like a man.
The warm magic of John Barleycorn poured through our veins and mellowed our voices. John Barleycorn reached out and tucked my arm in his. And here I sat, glass in hand, with adventurers who refused to be slaves to petty routine, who flouted the law, who carried their lives and their liberty in their hands. And it was through John Barleycorn that I came to join this glorious company of free souls, unashamed and unafraid. The sight of work sickened me.
I fled work. I became a tramp. I looked east now, across the Rockies to New York. I had been born in the working class. I was now at the age of 18, beneath the point at which I had started. I was down in the cellar of society, the abyss, the human cesspool about which it is neither nice nor proper to speak, the submerged 10th. I found there all sorts of men, many of whom had been as good as myself, wrenched and distorted and twisted out of shape by toil and hardship and accident, and cast adrift like so many old horses. And I learned that the dignity of labor was not what I had been told by the teachers and the preachers and the politicians. So I resolved never again to sell myself in the brawn market. Brain and brain alone would I sell. But there was never an editor's check. And so I went on the great adventure, on the Klondike Gold Rush. I found not a trace of gold. In fact, I caught the frostbite. And the doctor sent me home with scurvy. But I found human gold. Up there in the camps, where men and animals beat nature and were beaten by it, I found the raw stuff of drama. Recently, the critics attacked me when they said that the rough, unschooled sailor in my book, Martin Eden, could not have become a writer of international success in 3 years. But I was Martin. The only difference was the plot. Martin meets Ruth at her house on Nob Hill after he has saved her brother from drowning.
Mr. Eden?
Pleased to meet you, ma'am.
That's quite a scar, Mr. Eden. How did that happen?
A Mexican with a knife, man. It was just a fight. After I took the knife away from him, he tried to bite off my nose.
Oh. My.
This man Swinburne.
Who?
Swinburne, the poet?
Swinburne.
Swinburne. How long since he died?
I didn't know he died. Where did you make his acquaintance?
I never clapped eyes on the chap. I just been reading his poetry. Come with bow bent and with empty quivers, maiden most perfect, lady of light. That's beautiful.
With the noise of winds and of many rivers, with the clamor of waters, and with might.
You know it. You learned this whole book?
Part of it. I should say the first thing we could do is get you a grammar. Your grammar is not particularly good. By the way, Mr. Eden, what does booze mean?
Booze. Means whiskey, beer, anything that'll get you drunk.
There, now, you see. When one is speaking impersonally, one does not use you.
I don't get that.
You just said whiskey and beer would make you drunk. Make one drunk, don't you see?
Make me drunk. You see?
I see.
Who are you, Martin Eden? Who are you? What are you and where do you belong? You belong by rights to girls like Lizzie Connolly. You belong to the legions that toil to all those that are low and vulgar and unbeautiful. You belong with the oxen and the dredges. In dirty surroundings, among stenches and smells. And yet you dare to open the books, to listen to beautiful music, to learn to love beautiful paintings, speak good English, think thoughts none of your own kind would think. And you dare to tear yourself away from the Lizzie Connollys and to love a small wisp of a woman who's a million miles beyond you. Who are you, Martin Eden? And are you gonna make it good? Are you? These were heady, prolific years. In 1900, I published The Son of Wolf. In 1901, The God of His Fathers. Then The Cruise of the Dazzler. Daughter of the Snows, Call of the Wild, Seawolf, The Game, White Fang, Moonface, all in 5 years. And then there were essays. The War of the Classes, The People of the Abyss, The Kempton Waste Letters. These were my years with the Bohemians, with Cloudsley Johns, George Sterling, Anna Strunsky. Anna.
I see him now in the lanes near Oakland, bringing me a bunch of yellow daisies from the garden of his cottage. An indescribably virile and beautiful boy.
Dear Anna, no, God does not punish confidence. But he does grind up those of little faith and little heart, and he grinds them very fine. Of course you will succeed, if you will work. Apply your energy and the world will open its arms to you. You are all right. The world is all right. The question is, will you have the patience to gain the ear of the world? You will have to shout loud, for the world is rather deaf. And you will have to shout long. But the world sometimes opens its ears.
With Anna, I published my only joint work, An Interchange on the Subject of Love.
Dear Anna, I may not be adjusting my life artistically, but I am adjusting it scientifically. I'm adjusting my life so that I may get the most out of it. While the only thing to disorder it, worse than flood or fire, is love.
Dear Jack, where are the stars in your scientific heaven? Can you not open your arms and dream of beauty?
No. Man is able to control blind forces and direct their operation. Since he takes sexual selection and scientifically breeds the horse and the fowl, the beast and vegetable, why may he not scientifically breed his own kind?
The point of this game is to stand up, to stay on your feet, to hold a 20-foot ring of earth against the world. That's the point of all of this. And when all is said and done, the prize fighter is a finer thing than the decadent. As a brain merchant, I made friends with the greats. Jim Jeffries, heavyweight champion of the world, invited me to his training camp in San Francisco. The Hearst papers offered me large sums to cover the fight. Jeffries and Ruhlman, two big-thawed men like bulls in rutting combat. The crowd clamorous for blood. A machine-age gladiatorial contest, a picturesque scene of 20th century California. The ring, one way for a working-class man to rise above it.
become a hero. In the prize fighter is excessive elemental masculinity. They come down from the loins of elemental man. The decadent has no issue.
So here I was, Nietzschean and blonde beastly, the rampant individualist. At the age of 24, I married Bessie Mattern. Neither of us believed in love. Each of us found in the other a suitable specimen for procreation. Then things went wrong between me and Bessie. Bessie thought that it was Anna, but she was wrong. It was Charmian. In 1906, I was married to Charmian. With her, I abandoned the dream of the great man comrade who was to live youth perpetual with me. Blessed mate. When you came, I began to find something all round that I had failed to find in any man. At first, I wished you were a man. But then something else began to creep in. The woman in you twisting round my heart.
Jack's divorce was in every paper in the country, for he was lecturing at the time. Never did I weary of seeing him step out upon the stage with that almost bashful boyishness which so charmed his audiences.
I received a letter the other day. It came from a man in Arizona. It began, "Dear comrade," and it ended, "Yours for the revolution." In the United States alone, there are 400,000 men. Of men and women, 1 million, who begin their letters, "Dear comrade," and end them, "Yours for the revolution." In Germany, 3 million. In France, 1 million. In Belgium, 300,000. England, 100,000. Sweden, 50,000. Comrades all, revolutionists. I went to the university, and I found the university to be noble and clean, but I did not find it to be alive. The American university has this ideal, as phrased by a professor in Chicago, the passionless pursuit of passionless intelligence. The passionless pursuit of passionless intelligence. And I find the reflection of this university ideal in the unconcern of the American people toward those who are suffering, those who are in want.
To avoid the onslaught of the yellow press prying into every aspect of my personal and political life, I escaped with my mate to the South Seas. Alas, sickness forced our return. But I now had a new career as a farmer, a new refuge on my ranch in the Valley of the Moon.
Part of the process of recovering from my long illness was to find delight in little things, in things unconnected with books and problems. Playing tag, flying kites. I grew tired of the city. On the ranch in the Valley of the Moon, I found my paradise.
To Roland Phillips, Cosmopolitan Magazine. Dear Mr. Phillips, I am planning a serial, The Valley of the Moon. The motif is back to the land. Will you consider this story and advance me $500 per month for 5 months? While for once in my life the story will not be offensive to bourgeois business ethics, at the same time it will be something of which I shall absolutely and passionately believe every word. I will take a man and a woman, young, who both belong to the working class of a large city. Comes hard times, the woman gets the vision. The city was no place for Saxon and Billy, no place for love nor for babies. The way out was simple. They would leave Oakland. She found herself dreaming of the Arcadian days of her people, when they had not been vexed with labor unions or employers' associations or self-sufficingness, when people grew their own meat, raised their own vegetables. Dear Mr. Phillips, as regards the reason for making this request, let me explain. I am building my dream house on my dream ranch. I want the work to go on. At the same time, I want to stop my short story stunt and write a novel that I have close to heart. As regards rate of payment, supposing we say 12.5 cents a word.
For 7 years, Jack's Wolf House was building. 7 years and $70,000. Then disaster struck. It was burned. We believed by an arsonist, but we never discovered whose hand applied the torch. The burning of the Wolf House and sickness brought about a world weariness in Jack. Killed something in the Jack I had known before. Twice in this period, I lost the child I had longed for. Then Jack was caught in an unprovoked attack in a barroom. There was foul publicity and a prejudiced trial. The rigors of his sailing days and his Klondike days had left their mark.
I write a book for no other reason than to add to my real estate. I write a story for no other reason than to buy a stallion. To me, my cattle are far more interesting than my work. I feel I've done my part.
Jack's moods were violent and changeable, the courage in him always stirring. Yet when others came to visit us, to interrupt his work and to record our lives, he was always at his youthful best. Jack was increasingly sick with uremia. It was at this time that he wrote John Barleycorn, what he called his alcoholic memoirs.
I am aware that within this disintegrating body which has been dying since I was born, I carry a skeleton. That under the rind of flesh that is called my face is a bony, noseless death's head. All of which does not shudder me. Fear of death makes life. But the curse of the white logic is that it does not make one afraid.
The world's sickness of the white logic makes one grin into the face of the noseless one and to sneer at all the phantasmagoria of living. To the imaginative man, John Barleycorn sends the spectral syllogisms of the white logic. Good is bad, truth is a cheat, life is a joke. Wife, children, friends. In the clear white logic of John Barleycorn, they are exposed as frauds, shams, miserable creatures. I'm oppressed by the cosmic sadness that has always been the lot of man. In vain do I ask myself why I am so sad. My nights are warm. I have food galore. Every creature comfort is mine. I have land, money, power, world recognition. My life has indeed fallen in pleasant places. Not 100 men in a million have been as lucky as I. Yet with all this vast fortune am I sad.